You're a member of Generation Z.
Yep, Gen Zer.
What are the misconceptions, would you say, about Gen Z and conservatism?
I think the biggest misconception that Gen Z has is that we're ill-informed, we're misinformed all the time, we are the dumb generation, we're always on our phones, we're the Zoomers, as a lot of people like to say. And I think that Gen Z is honestly the most misrepresented generation, because if you look at like technology and how we've grown up, we have grown up on our phones, but the misconceptions aren't true. I actually think we're a lot more conservative than people think. I mean, I remember a study that came out that high school boys are trending more conservative. And I think that's very telling of our entire generation, because we're kind of sick of what the left has been pushing in our faces.
What would you say to conservatives who are younger, like in Generation Z, who are afraid to speak out or afraid to make their opinions known when the left is in control of everything, from academia to music,
right,
to the entertainment industry, whatever it is, the left seems to have a stranglehold on everything. And it's unpopular, or it feels, not that it's unpopular, but it feels unpopular because conservatives tend to be more quiet and the left is loud and in control of things. What would be your advice to people who are hesitant to be true to themselves and to actually say what they believe?
I mean, it feels impossible sometimes to a lot of people to even be able to speak out against, what the mainstream has been showing everyone. I mean, look at TikTok. I've been banned on TikTok. I know a lot of people that feel like that they just can't have a voice. So to everyone who feels that way, I say, you know what? Stick it to them. Why not have a voice? What have you got to lose? Because if one of your friends is willing to lose your friendship over your conservative or your Christian values, then are they really your friend if they're not supporting you for who you are and what you believe in? And I think that the one thing that I hear most, I go and travel to a lot of college campuses and I say, what is the biggest issue facing our generation today, Gen Z? And I always hear political division, and everyone is completely divided and we can't have conversations. What better way to fix that than to actually come together and have educated conversations, which is why I always encourage members of our generation to constantly seek after absolute truth and what the truth is, and always stand firm on your values and your ideals, so you can go out and continue to have positive, educated conversations about everything that you believe in.
Academia has gotten more insane over the past 10 years, with the trans issue, with professors being more crazy about just the attacks on conservative students have been more blatant and more in your face.
Yeah.
And then now also with leftist students becoming these open anti-Semites. Everything's just out of control. Would you say that that's helping moderate or on the fence students, or even left-wing students, reevaluate their views and maybe be pushed more towards conservative? Is it advantageous for the conservative movement?
I think so. I think they're really shooting themselves in the feet with how wild these protests and these advocacy, these activist groups have gotten. Because if you look at, the pro-Hamas, the pro-Palestine protests that are going on, these kids have no idea what they're even protesting for. They have no idea from what river to what sea they're chanting about. And I think that's really telling of, the clientele or the students that are attaching themselves to these movements are just very ill-informed. And as soon as you peel back the layers of the onion and actually educate these students and talk about different ideas than just the fun slogans that are constantly talked about and the rhetoric that's spewed on these college campuses, they actually start to think a little bit deeper and realize that everything that they've learned their entire life is a lie. And that's the hard reality I think that a lot of Gen Z isn't ready to have yet, is peeling back those layers and learning what the truth is about a lot of things that are going on. I mean, Turning Point chapters are across the nation, and we're the ones that are really combating these protests. We're the one having speaking events. We're the ones that are allowing these students to have a spot so that they can have those public conversations and encourage conservative ideas. I was at UCLA a couple weeks ago. Charlie Kirk was tabling. We were talking, we were filming, and there was an entirely huge Palestinian protest. And look at Harvard, for example. They can't even denounce the anti-Semitism on their campuses. And it's a rising problem across our entire country with the Ivy League schools, upper education, to where upper education is completely unrecognizable now. And I think that these presidents of the universities, I think public schools, the school boards are going to really start to need to get a little bit more creative if they're going to keep indoctrinating our youth, because Gen Z is waking up in levels that we've never seen before and fighting back against, the wokeism that's happening.
Would you say that Gen Z is also more interested in traditional values, in the sense of, I hear a lot of talk just at this conference and just in general about being rebellious against this modern behavior and getting married, having kids, getting married young, having a lot of kids, and just kind of, focusing on family, because I feel like, a lot of people have been tricked into hookup culture and prioritizing career over family. Is that something that Gen Z is waking up to as well?
I think so. I saw a study that showed that Gen Z no longer wants to see sex scenes in films and in TV shows because it's distracting to the plot. And even hookup culture has been diminishing over the past couple of years. The sexual revolution come to now, 2023, we are seeing a lot more students not wanting to indulge in that kind of risque behavior and wanting to settle down, wanting to have a family, and realizing, hookup culture isn't as glorifying as the feminist movement has made it out to be. Ever since the 60s of the rise of feminism, the rise of birth control, the rise of all the sexual revolution that's kind of been happening throughout the last couple of decades, our generation is the one that's saying, you know what, actually, I don't want to do that. I don't want to participate in what society is telling me is glorifying to my body when it's not. And I think a lot of Gen Z women are starting to wake up against feminism because they're the ones that I think that have pioneered destabilizing the nuclear family. They're the ones that are encouraging women to climb the corporate ladder. They're the ones encouraging women to go on birth control. They're the ones encouraging women to not be stay-at-home moms and that abortion is more glorifying than being a mother. And so I really think that Gen Z women are the ones that are really pioneering this movement of anti-feminism and instead embracing femininity to say, you know what, I do want to be a mom. I do want to be a stay-at-home mom, and I want to raise the next generation to love their country and not hate their country and be a little rebellious.
It's also probably wakes up a lot of people when they realize that the feminist movement it didn't end up being advantageous for them anyway. I mean, now you have men participating in women's sports, so the feminists have let them down anyway.
Yeah, they have. I mean, I feel like we're living in a South Park episode or an episode from The Simpsons. They seem to predict crazy things that go on in our country. And it's very true. How is the movement that was created, for voter rights back in women's suffrage, getting women the right to vote, how has that been morphed into actually now biological men can compete against women and now beat women? Men are better at being women than women are. And that's what the feminist movement has continued to push and shove down women's throats for decades, lying to us. We need to compete with men, we need to be like men, we have to climb the corporate ladder. We can now be the providers, having a double income family is now being able to provide for your families better. We need to put our kids in daycare now because nope, you have to be in the corporate world because that's more fulfilling. And it honestly makes me really sad to see how many women have bought into these lies of, being in the corporate world is more fulfilling. And the reality is it's not, it's our inherent nature as women to be mothers. It's our inherent nature to want to provide within the household and raise our next generation. And I think that's going to have a lot more positive outlook into our society than letting feminism control our lives.